definition of recovery means to get something back.
Get freedom, choice, and sanity back.
Because every time you use, you put a block between the people in your life. I don't want real life. I want this. I was always blaming other people. You got to be powerless, and it makes you stronger. Hey, man, the universe gives you the power, man, when you let go.
Yeah, that's a serenity prayer in action.
Responsibility and excuses can't exist in the same place. The best thing you can do for the whole world is to make the most of yourself. If you can't control other people, guess what you can control? You. Oh, man, I was not prepared to get this emotional today, but...
Hey there, it's me, Rainn Wilson, and I want to dig into the human experience. I want to have conversations about a spiritual revolution. Let's get deep with our favorite thinkers, friends, and entertainers about life, meaning, and idiocy. Welcome to the Soul Boom Podcast.
Now, again, it's not that I know everything, but I've been through some stuff. And I'm like, this might help you.
Yeah.
Listen, take it or
you
leave
might
it.
want to trust me, considering the life I've lived.
Listen, I've had people, my kids look at me and go, Dad, whatever. And then come back and go, you're right.
Yeah.
But you can't gloat. Can't do that.
Yeah.
The American way is gloating. The American way is like, I told you. No.
But such a different set of obstacles to be kid of a celebrity growing up with money in LA and with phones is a very different path than growing up in Flint, Michigan with an alcoholic, abusive dad.
Oh, yeah. Poor and broke.
Poor.
In the cold.
Yeah.
Which is totally different.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do, it was like, you know what? I was a bullet that you loaded in a gun. Like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
sports was your way out.
That was the way out. I knew. But that's a trick in a way too, because I was an artist. Painting, drawing, it was sculpting.
Will you sketch me like one of your French girls?
I could do that.
You could do that.
I could do that. I'm a big art guy. Okay,
Yeah.
Left-handed, right-brained.
Yeah,
that was my thing.
You were art major at Eastern Michigan.
I had a Western
Michigan, one of the Michigans.
Art scholarship to Interlochen Arts Academy.
Amazing.
Which is really famous.
Yeah, that's
art.
famous.
And
art.
then I had a scholarship to Western Michigan University, and then walked on to the football team. So, but when I say trick, I never thought art would be my way, because I said no. I never saw anybody make any money.
Yeah,
I was like, no, you got to die.
Yeah,
to me, to be a successful artist, you got to die.
Right.
I don't want to die.
Do the Van Gogh thing. Yeah.
So I'm just doing this as a hobby and whatever. But I didn't know you could actually get money and kind of make a career.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is football was. They told me, but the way you're going to do it is you get this scholarship in football. So I was already in a mode where I wanted to be big and strong, because the neighborhood I was in, the crack dealers, the gangsters, my father, everything said, be tough, be strong to survive. Like I would have my artistic portfolio, and I'd walk through gang members, and they'd be like, hey man, what's that, man? I'm like, hey man, what do you think it is? And it's the game. Yeah. It was all pretend. Yeah. And I actually use these characters in movies that I played.
Oh yeah.
Because you just you know that guy.
Yeah.
And then I go into school, and then I geek out about Star Wars and be all Mr. Artsy, and then come back out. Yeah, man, what's up? What's up with you? Huh? I mean, just weird.
Yeah.
But it's the phrase they call it is I forget, code switching.
Okay, right.
And if they ever heard me, they would say, man, you talk white. You talk white. You talk like a white dude, And I was like, oh no, man, you got the wrong one. And then when I get around the guys, you actually talk dumb. You have to pretend to not be smart, because that would kill you. They would literally look at you like, that's a snitch right there. It was snitch. It was weird. It was, it wasn't cool. So. But I would nerd out at home.
How did your parents feel about you with your artsy streak?
First of all, they loved it. my mother to like before she passed in 2015, but she was like, Terry, never forget you're an artist.
That's
You're
beautiful.
always an
That's
artist.
great.
She loved because I was so religious and we weren't allowed to go to movies, weren't allowed to listen to secular music, all this stuff.
Wow.
I would
What
stay-
branch of Christianity were you talking?
Church of God in Christ.
Okay.
It was Pentecostal.
Wow. Okay.
Lots of holy rolling, lots of
Was there speaking in tongues?
speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
A lot of running. I mean, there would be
Exorcism,
straight sprint.
demons?
Oh yeah, casting out demons and people running in the church. It was wild. Like we had people sprinting from the middle aisle all the way into the pulpit, and bow, and they would hit and fall, and ooh, I grew up like whoa, you know.
It's great entertainment, though.
Oh, it was exciting. I mean, you know, and it was a lot of music and
boring
loud.
church,
And, well,
That's not like white people church.
no. It
you-
was active. Like
yeah.
you sweat.
Yeah.
You came out of church like, woo.
Singing too?
Yeah, singing, shouting.
I love it. Singing, demons, talking in tongues, running,
shouting, screaming. And this was the thing.
laying on hands.
Laying on of hands,
Right.
the whole thing. But
That's
let me
fun.
tell you, man, this was so weird because I just remember being maybe 6 or 7. And I was like, when is it going to take me? When is it? Because the thing is, people go, and they would get you.
Yeah, the spirit.
The spirit got
Yeah.
me. And they would, oh, no, look at my friend. And he jump, and he did, and I went, oh, I got him. I got him. And I'm looking around the whole church, people just snatching up. And I'm like, why don't I feel anything? And I said, why can't I? When is it going to get me? And I used to just sit and pray and be like, come on. And it never happened. Then the pastor got up in front of the whole church. I'll never forget this day. Again, I'm little, man. And he said, if you don't feel nothing, you must not have nothing. I went, oh no.
Oh, man.
Oh no. I don't have nothing. I don't have it. And I just said, God, please give it to me. And I remember going to my friend and he jumped up. I said, what does it feel like? He said, I said, well, you got it. You got it. He was like, man, it just took me. And I was like, I said, why don't it take me? Dude, I was confused.
Yeah. And did that go into your teenage years
All the
too?
way
Like,
into the teenage year, but then finally I started to realize, but see, this is what happened. My pastor, literally, the pastor at the time had affairs all over the church.
okay.
He was selling drugs out of the pulpit. It was a game. And my father was out, however, was in the streets. He was like, yeah, I know Elder Jones. I know the real Elder Jones. And my mother be like, stop talking about Elder Jones. You do not touch God's anointed. And then he was like, I see him in the street though. And so everybody knew because he was copping drugs with the other people. And they were like, man, that's Elder Jones down the street, man. But then he'd go to church and they would put the blinders on. Let's stay in our bubble. But I knew something was wrong. Everything was the world versus us. So anything, like, you couldn't go start a business because that was worldly. You couldn't go be an actor because that was worldly. It was a big...
So it's a weird way of kind of keeping you down,
oh,
right?
my God, wait, you never got anything. So all you could do was eat. And so there were a lot of obese people. And they didn't really mark obesity or gluttony as sin. It was kind of like,
We'll forget that.
We just gonna sit around and we gonna eat and we gonna talk about how the world is bad and we somehow are better. And it was this very elitist, very us, and I remember just going, this is everything I wanted to do. I was punished for, and so you never talked about sex. Ever. Like that was no. Yet everybody was somehow doing it. But,
Right.
So it was this weird dichotomy. And that is what fueled a lot of my pornography addiction because the shame cycle is huge. Like you see it and you feel like, I shouldn't have seen it, but I loved it. But I shouldn't have. But I loved it. So,
yeah.
Oh my God. So now you're like, oh man, if I could see it again.
The forbidden fruit.
I want to see it again.
The forbiddenness of it makes it a lot more compelling.
You literally split.
Right.
It's in your brain.
It's a Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Oh, you're like, and then you go back and you go, oh, well, look, oh my, and wait, and you have to understand, I'm a kid. And this is one thing about pornography. A lot of people think that, you know, they say, yeah, you're right. When you're 18 years old, you can be a discerning adult, you can choose and the whole thing. But I don't know anybody that discovered pornography at 18.
Right.
Nobody.
No. Oh yeah. No. No.
It's dropped off. It's like the drug dealer outside the school who's like, "Hey man, here's a free pack of crack. There you go. Hey man, I got some cocaine for you for free." And you're like 10.
Yeah.
Because you get a customer for life. And they know that.
The 70s pornography, people don't understand. Like it was hysterical. It's like, hey, Rainn, my cousin Don's got 3 penthouses and he's hid them in the stump out behind Eric Mitchell's house. Dude. You know that big stump? Yeah, they're out there. Like, let's go look at. And after school, like we'd go out to the stump behind Eric Mitchell.
Always you and a buddy.
Yeah. And then, but they'd get soggy from being in the stump, you know, but you'd kind of like peel the page. You're like, oh, it's like twin cowgirls on a hay bale, you know, with their boobies out, and you're 11 years old and this is your introduction. But again, very different now where you've got parents are giving their kids phones without any blocks on them whatsoever. And, you know, in about 13 and a half seconds, you can have like, you know, the most hardcore gangbangs you can, have you ever imagined in your life just up on your browser.
Can I tell you, it's changing human sexuality as we know it. You actually fall in love with the phone. You don't fall in love with the girl.
Whoa.
You fall in love with the experience of looking at the girl through the phone.
Yeah.
So real women it's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No, get away from me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Guys would much rather.
Because real women, they have smells and they've got blemishes and
problems.
Yeah. And needs.
Listen, my perfect example of this is I'll never forget when I was in the NFL, and the big thing was they would go to the strip club. And I was like, and I was trying to fit in with NFL guys. And like, we going to the strip club, we going to Magic City, we landed in Atlanta, we in Atlanta, we going to Magic City. And I was like, and they pumped it all up. And I was like, okay. So we go there. And oh my God, like you say, smells and scents and atmosphere and music. And you're like, whoa, okay. And the girls are all dancing around. But then the girl would want to sit down with the football players and start talking. What y'all doing? She's like, and all the guys, we all look at her like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Conversation.
And she's like, well, you know, my kids, you know, and you're like, oh, stop.
I don't want to know about your kids.
You're ruining.
You want it to stay in fantasy, right?
Because you're becoming human before my eyes. I don't like your humanity. Be this doll. Be this thing that no one can really touch and see. It's kind of like, I just want you to be a page in my magazine or just a thing.
Or a screenshot or a GIF or a little porn video or whatever. Yeah.
You're not human.
Yeah.
And I have to say this. What happens is there's a whole generation of men that have learned to not tie that humanity in with women, which makes it really easy to abuse and really easy to discount and degrade because they're playthings. It's a toy. It's like this copper. It's like, no, you're here for me.
Yeah.
And it changes how you think about people. They become objects and body parts.
I talked to a therapist friend of mine, and she had a clinic in Los Angeles, and she said the number of like sex addict young folk are coming in, you know, not like you think about like porn addicted sex addict, like old, like pervert guys, 22-year-olds coming in who were coming in because they were unable to get erections with their girlfriends because they had been watching porn for 10 years. And then human interaction no longer aroused them. Like you said, you know, the dopamine, the oxytocin, just from the phone and from the images. And so you have 22-year-olds going on Viagra in order to try and have a sex life with a human being.
It's heroin.
Yeah.
It's heroin. It's like a shot that I've never been on drugs. I mean, that's not my thing, but I know what addiction feels like.
Yeah.
And going back to normal, it doesn't do it.
Hmm.
You know, like you can get to a point where you're like, oh, where's this doesn't do it for me.
How did you get help? How did you get caught, or did you raise the white flag? How did you ask for help with porn addiction? And by the way, too, like I've talked about this, like I'm poly addicted, right? So it started with drugs and alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
but porn, gambling, food,
Yep.
workaholism, codependence,
Yep.
you name it, like I've sampled it.
Yep.
And so I've definitely been there, and I know how those algorithms work, on those porn sites, and they
Yep.
just keep you coming back in the same way that Candy Crush or social media keeps you coming back.
Same
But
thing.
it's a lot more insidious because it has to do with a beautiful, true, and important part of human nature, which is our sexuality. And how is our sexuality expressed with another person in intimacy? And it sabotages that. So it
Yep.
makes it a little bit different than like TikTok.
Yep. Yep.
But it's the same
But it's
kind
the
of
same.
algorithmic behavioral addiction. But tell me, can you go a little bit more granular in your story?
I will. I'll never forget. I can go real granular. February 10th, 2010,
Mm.
snowstorm in New York. I was shooting a pilot for TBS called Are We There Yet? We were doing 10-episode pilots. It actually ended up getting picked up, and we were celebrating the end of the shoot of 10 episodes. And I was in New York and went to the Mercer Hotel. My wife was in LA, and my wife kept calling me. Like, the thing is she was just like, Terry, something's up. What is going on with you? Like, you're acting weird. And here I am. I'm like, look, what is your problem? I'm very successful.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
I'm providing for the family.
I'm
I'm getting
providing.
work.
I'm over here working hard.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you bugging me about? And she wouldn't stop. And the thing is, my wife did not know. But the thing is, I was always.
How much were you using porn? How many hours?
I mean, I was hooked. There were times when day would
Hours a
turn
day.
into night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is another thing that was really weird. And I have to say this because there were certain times that I was more susceptible, be it Friday night. Because Friday night is when everybody would celebrate. Like, okay, we did everything. And I always pride myself, like, I'm not going out. Like, it was a weird, like that two people thing where no, I don't drink. I pride myself. I don't drink. I don't do drugs.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stay in the room, and you guys go out and do your thing. And I felt very arrogant about who I was. But I would go in there and I would spend hours watching porn, hours. And it was one of those things. Like, I felt like, okay, I would be all guilty, but I'll never do that again. But it would always happen, pretty much once a week, maybe twice. And if I had 2 or 3 days off, especially when I'm off, gone, like away from home
On the road, yeah.
it was, I mean, it was like benders, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was weird. And 10 years earlier, from that time, I had cheated on my wife at a massage parlor.
Mm.
And I vowed I would never take that step, but I did. And I said, okay, this is a secret I'm taking with me for life. Like, I will die with this. So that's it. But I never did that again, but the porn use just ramped up after that. So all this time, and my wife hit me with the question. She said, "What is it I don't know about you, Terry Crews?"
Whoa.
Rainn, I don't know what happened, man. I said, I'm tired. I'm tired. I can't hide this anymore. And I said, 10 years ago, I went to a massage parlor, got a hand job. And that's one thing you don't know about me. It came out just like that. She went, like this gasp. Now remember, I'm thinking, but that was 10 years ago. But to her,
Yeah.
it was a second ago.
It was like a yesterday. Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And this just the beginning. I ain't even tell her all this other stuff. I'm thinking here's just because I was just tired. And I knew our relationship was over. There's a thing where, because every time you use, you put a block between the people in your life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Whatever it is. It's like, you're in the way. I'd much rather, I don't want real life. I want this. So it would put a brick between us and our relationship.
Mm. Mm.
And I just thought it was part of Hollywood. I was like, yeah, here comes the divorce. That's
Mm.
what it is. Like,
Mm.
this is why you see these guys. It's supposed to happen.
Mm.
And I was like, this is it. And she said, Terry, don't come home. It's over. I said, what do you mean? I said, that was 10 years. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
rationalize, like, you need to grow up and understand. Oh, dude. She's like, I don't know you. What is this? You've been lying to me the whole time.
Mm.
And I went, oh my God. Like, and she said, don't come home, and slammed the phone down. And I remember just thinking for a minute there, I was like, well, yeah, this is how it is. I'll just get me another girl, get me another woman, and find me. And I heard myself speaking this way.
Mm.
And I didn't like me. I was like, what are you doing?
Mm.
Who are you? And dude, the question always had been, why doesn't she believe me? Then for a split second, the question shifted, why am I lying? Changed the whole format of
Mm.
my life.
Mm. Mm.
I said, I've been lying this whole time.
Mm.
I'm lying to everybody. I'm a whole nother person. But there's an image that everyone loves that I've been holding up, but that's not me. And then I knew that wasn't me. And I knew who I really was. So I would dress it up every day. But I felt like a dirty, down, nasty dog. And usually, if you feel that way, you go right back to the mud.
Let me tell you something. My inner mindful monk, my outer chaotic weirdo, and my borderline dehydrated gorgeous summer bod can agree on one thing. Bragg has officially outdone themselves. Cue conch shell. They have dropped something so tropical, so summery, so yellowish, orangey. It's like your gut went on vacation without you. It is the new Bragg Pineapple Turmeric Apple Cider Vinegar Blend. That's right, pineapple and turmeric. I like mine with a little coconut water, squeeze of lime, a little fizzy water maybe. It's like a pina colada met a spice rack and decided to clean up your insides. And the best part? This is an online-only summer drop. That means it's exclusive and probably what Socrates would have sipped on if he'd had an Amazon account. I don't know. Visit Bragg.com, B-R-A-G-G, to get on the list and be the first to get your hands on the new Bragg Pineapple Turmeric Apple Cider Vinegar Blend and use the promo code SOULBOOM for 20% off your first order at Bragg.com.
And I called my friend, a really good friend. I said, man, I just lost my wife and my family. It's over. And he said, Terry, I can't promise you you're going to get your wife and family back, but you need to get better for you. And I looked, what does that mean? Okay. I said, because all my whole life, the reason I did good things was to get things.
Mm.
The phrase even my wife and I had was called Scooby Snacks. Like, the reason you did this is to get sex. Or the reason I did this great thing so to get money. Or did this to get accolades.
Attention,
to get props,
awards.
That joke is killed so I can get the But to do good for good's sake, what's the point? Like, you want to give to the poor so everybody sees you because you're getting it now, but to give and nobody knows,
Right.
what's the point? You know what I mean? So that was how I lived my life. Like, it all had to be visual, had to be images.
Right. Image management.
And my wife was like, you're a big old fake. Listen, I'm going to tell you how bad it was. It would get to a point where if someone, we would pull up into a place, and if someone was watching, I'd jump out of the car, open the door for my wife. But if no one was there, I'd be like, hey, go ahead and open the door. And she's like, you're a fake. You're a big fucking phony. I was like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody comes up, oh, hey, because it was the look.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I hate this. I don't understand you. And so she had been seeing this whole thing. So I decided to I went to a counselor, and he said, Terry, you got a double life. There's a place in Phoenix called Psychological Counseling Services that deals with sex addiction. I was like, oh my God, sex addict. You're like, huh?
Yeah.
I don't drink. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
I work out every day. I'm pure. I'm wondering.
I'm spiritual.
Yeah, but I had but also now I'm single and I can't go home. And I went, oh man, I got to check this out. And I had never done therapy because in the religious world, therapy was viewed as quackery. They were like, no, if God didn't do it,
It's worldly.
It's worldly.
Yeah.
Them psycho people gonna mess with your brain. And I remember my father, who was a big time alcoholic, would go to the psychologist, and then the psychologist killed himself.
Oh,
When I was a kid, I was like, my father's so bad that he made the psychologist kill himself.
made his shrink kill
He jumped
himself.
off a bridge. I'll never forget this. I was like, man, I'm looking at the paper, and I was in my teens. I'm like, this dude jumped off a bridge? I said, Now I'm not seeing this guy. Because in my head, I'm going, oh, that's weird. I don't want to kill myself. So I finally go in there, and I got everything. And all my suspicions were validated. I was like, this is not me. And I'm in a group, and I'm like, oh, no, this is crazy. But then all of a sudden, they were like, hey, man, is your father an alcoholic? I was like, yeah. How did you know that? I said, well, you're in a very religious household. Yeah, how did you know that? I mean, and this is like an hour in. And I was like, they just started reading my mail, reading it, opening the letters. And I was going, and dude, you got to understand, I probably had never cried to that. I mean, I don't remember crying until that week that I was in an intensive. And I was there for like 10 hours a day, weeping. And let me tell you, the weeping went for almost 3 years. 3 years.
Wow.
I couldn't stop crying.
Wow.
And everything. And it was like...
How long did you spend in that place?
Well, I was there for a whole 8-day period.
And
then I went home, and then me and my wife came back because there's betrayal trauma that she had to do. And then there was disclosure, which was when you had to detail. Listen, man, there were times she thought I was at work, and I was in some bookstore in them little video boxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just horrible, like stuff I cringe even now. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when it happened, it was a Jones that was weird. Like, I would go down the freeway and you see like X-rated bookstore, and I would log it in my brain where it is. And then I drive like 45 minutes home. But I knew exactly where to go back. 45 minutes. And I'd be gone all day. My wife said, you've been gone all day. Where you been? But I went on the freeway back to that truck stop where it was adult movies. This is where, again, it was that Jonesy.
Yeah.
And I was like...
it was like a drug addict looking for their fix. Yeah.
And on the way home, I'll never do this again. I'll never do this again. But,
yeah. So you guys went in as a couple. You did disclosure.
We did everything.
Yeah.
And man, it slowly, what was so good though, is that because my willingness to change allowed my wife to give me another shot. Because again, it could have went either way. That was her decision to make. But she said, I see you wanted to change. Because I realized, because going in, I said, you have to understand too, there was a point where I was always blaming other people. And the victim mentality is heinous simply because you never run out of valid excuses as a victim. I'm Black, I'm poor, I grew up in this, I was religious, my father was abusive, he beat my mother, and I had, the table was always full of excuses. But the moment you take responsibility, you have to get rid of every excuse. Responsibility and excuses can't exist in the same place. They just never do. When it's you, well, you don't like something, okay, I'll just move it. That was, because I would always be like, no, that's got to stay here. Hey, man, you don't have to eat what's put in front of you. You could just say no. And I went, oh my God, like, I don't, okay, okay. That was strange to me. You know, it was, and this is where I became, even as an actor, they asked me, they said, what if a director told you to do something you didn't want to do? I said, well, I have to do it. They're like, Terry, no, you don't.
Mm.
I said, no, but they hired me. He said, Terry, you don't have to do what a director tells you have to do. I said, yeah, but the whole movie's on me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do it, they'll get rid of me. He said, well, that means yes, that means you just move on. I said, but I'm an actor.
Yeah.
You have to understand. See, this is this is why even athletes and stuff, you don't separate this. They don't have the right to do this. As an athlete, I have to do this because the whole world is counting on me. So I have to play hurt. I have to play on this broken leg. I have to.
Right.
And no, you don't.
Yeah.
As soon as you say, no, I'm going to sit out, they go, look at you. You know how many people counting on you. And if you did that, usually they would look at like something was wrong with you. And I couldn't take stuff like that.
Or you were soft.
So I was a pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you a great actor, by the way. He'll do it. Wow. He goes in. But it doesn't do good for you. You know what I mean? Like for you to actually say, no, and to actually challenge a director, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't challenge my coaches. I didn't challenge my director. And anytime I did, it was huge punishments. Even back when I was in church as a kid. If you challenged them, I remember asking questions. They were like, shut up. First of all, sit down and shut up.
Wow.
So anything that I ever questioned, anytime I ever was like, well, why did God do that? And why is it? Hey, man, shut up. God knows more than you do. So that means you're God. So nobody really wanted to tell me what was going on.
Yeah. But I'm really struck by this, the double life thing, which I think every addict can relate to. You know, you're the good boy on the outside doing exactly what the coaches say, what the TV directors say. You don't go partying. You don't drink. You're a family man. You're opening the door for your wife when people are watching. But then you have this double life.
Yep.
How did you guys heal that? How did you eventually regain her trust? You said you were crying off and on for 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, we went through everything. When I say polygraph tests, there were, I mean, total disclosure moments where she was like, I'm out. I can't do this. And I just have to say, okay. And then she'd come back like, damn it. I'm going to work through this. And you know what was weird? What I want to say is there were times I wanted to quit and she didn't. And then there were times when she wanted to quit and I didn't. I just thank God we didn't want to quit at the same time. You know, it's kind of timed out where we were just like, I said, no, I'm holding on. Because, and there was a lot of things where I had to, you know, really say what I needed. And it was different for me because, again, I was used to being this image and pleaser and this and this. And so I would go, saying no was really hard. Like when people wanted me to do something, no. And I would feel really crazy about it. Like, oh, people are going to be mad at me. Because again, as this little religious kid with alcoholic dad, all I wanted, couldn't tell nobody no. I couldn't. And so getting, as an adult, learning to tell people no was crazy to me. And even my wife. There were times she'd be mad and I knew that she'd come home and she'd cry and I knew I caused it. And she's, I want you to, and I would go, no. That's because you're like, this is the woman I hurt, so I have to do whatever she said. No. I have to get better for me. That's a different, now listen, anybody listening will be like, you bastard, how could you do that to her? But there's two different ways of thinking about this. We have to think about the best thing you can do for the whole world is to make the most of yourself. Not to make the most of other people, not to make the most of all the systems, not to make the most of your political party, yourself. you have to improve. And all of a sudden, the conditions, it's not the other way around.
Mm.
If you work on the conditions, what do you control? Hey, man, AA is all about what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
AA is literally knowing the difference.
Yeah, that's a serenity prayer in action. Yeah.
You gotta know
Mm-hmm.
what is it you can actually control.
Mm.
And if you can't control other people, guess what you can control?
Mm.
You. And so it became where it was the way I said it. It was, I love you, but the answer is no. And this is what I'm going to do. And she had to learn to have her know. And I had to respect her no. Because that was another thing I did. When she would come up to me and I was like, be like, hey, how about we get together? No. And I had to respect that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listen, there were so many things we had to do. There was a 90-day sex fast. Living together, being together, 90 days, no sex. And I was like, can I do this? Because here I am, you're an addicted person. You're like, I need a release, I need something. And I said, no, I'm gonna do this. We got to 75 days and she was like, okay, it's okay. And we failed. I was like, all right, we went to 75 days. I said, no, let's start over. We have to get through this.
Mm.
So we went 90 days with no sex, but this is another period.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you what happened. I saw her, who she really was. No sex involved. It turned into, she was 10 years old, I was 10 years old, and I would hand her a flower.
Mm.
No sex involved. Like when you're a kid and you just like a girl, like, I just like you, or you, and I just think you're pretty, and I think you're nice, and I think you're sweet, and that's how it took these days to become where I said I had to separate what sex was from what love was. Because, every song, every R&B song in the world has conflated sex and love. You know what I mean? Baby, I love you tonight, And how about we make love? Dude. But you realize that's sex and love are two different things.
Mm.
Absolutely. You can, and most men can have sex without being in love at all. Okay? But love is different. Love is all about how can I help you?
Well, some men can't have sex when there is love, and then the sex breaks down too.
Right.
What does your work look like now? What does your program look like now around your powerlessness around pornography?
Oh, just boundaries in every way. And
your blocks on your devices,
no.
accountability, 12-step program, anything like that?
I had them in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but can I tell you one thing that happened? And one thing that really helped me is you get angry. You start to realize that things are trying to get you. And this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, okay? Because we're supposed to look at the world and we're all supposed to be wonderful and everything. Oh no, you're going to have a really, a bad view of everything. No. I love you, but I don't trust you. The whole point is when I look at my phone and I look at something that comes in and it says, you're trying to get me.
Yeah.
You're not, what you say you're doing is not what you're doing.
Mm.
When you look at this algorithm, you're pulling me somewhere.
And the pop-up ads, if you look at any sports score, there's always like the Sports Illustrated, bikini model in the corner and like click here.
Dude, every 4 emails is a scam.
Mm.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Every 4 emails,
mm-hmm.
You click on it, they're trying to take something from you.
Mm-hmm.
If that gets you angry, you're like, delete. I'm not going to even spend any time with you.
Mm.
And that's what made me mad. I got angry. Pornography became this big beast. And let me tell you one thing I did. And the biggest way I knew to stab it in the heart was to go public. I went public. And
it was really brave. I remember reading your first interviews around it. It was like, whoa.
I got Facebook Live. There was Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And they were giving it out. And I was like, I could stab this thing in the heart right now.
Mm-hmm.
because
it makes the stakes so much higher.
because listen, you're only as sick as your secrets.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because that was my life. The image, hide. I said, no hiding. I'll never hide again. This is why I can talk about this stuff so freely right now. Because I said, I was in the car and I was just coming out of the gym and I said, I had an addiction to pornography. You got to understand, back in, I was probably 20, I forget, it was like 8 years after I had been in therapy, probably 6 or 7 years after it. You can look it up.
Yeah.
But I called it Dirty Little Secret. And it's on the internet right now. You can look it up. Terry Crews, Dirty Little Secret. That video is right there.
Yeah.
And I went public for the first time.
And your wife was cool with that?
Oh, she didn't know.
You just made that decision.
I had to. I just did it because I didn't want anybody to talk me out of it. And wait, and this is part of my thing where I had to get better for me. Now, if she hadn't been, well, that's something you got to sort out. But I have to do this. Like I knew what I had to do to kill this thing, to stab this thing in the heart because it's a monster. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't ever want to hide again. And integrity is just being one whole person, no two, no splits. That's what integrity is. And you got to understand, it rocked the world at the time. Every morning news show was like, Terry Crews admits to a pornography addiction. They wanted me out on Good Morning America, Today's Show. They wanted me out there the next day. And I said, just look at the video.
It's all right there.
Why do I need to fly out and say this again? And then I was major, super big in Old Spice at the time. So I was Mr. Old Spice. They called and they were like, oh man, I think we got to get rid of him. My agent called. They said, Terry,
they're going to drop you.
They're going to drop you. I said, I understand. They didn't sign up for this. I understand. And listen, if they have to do it, they have to do it. But this is what I have to do. This is my no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And dude, wait a minute. 2 days went by and I was racing for the rejection and everything. And they were like, wait, he didn't get caught. We didn't catch him in any scandal. He's just talking
about something he's struggling with.
About what he struggled with.
Which is so common.
And the reason he came forward, I said, listen, and you can look at the video. I said, if anyone else is going through something like this, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not by yourself. No more hiding. No more hiding. I just want to let you know I'm with you. Man, it was so freeing. And my wife looked at me like, what? And remember, I was prepared for anything when I came home. And she was like, this is the man I always wanted. And when you do that, man, and when you see it, and then you see how much it robbed you, you feel like a thief that's robbed you for years. So I don't have blocks because I don't need them. What I do have is standards and practices. And I replace every bad thing with a good one. This is the good thing I'm going to do. Instead of that, I'm going to do this. Choices. Good choices. And am I tempted? Yes. But at the same time, this thing robbed me. It's like going back with the guys on the street that beat you up and robbed you. Now you're going to go hang out with them again?
Yeah.
Nope. I learned my lesson. And I talk to my kids like this. And a lot of them are like, oh, you're a little overboard, Dad. I said, but I went through it, man. I went through it. And this is what the wonderful thing, and this is the good news. This is good, is that recovery has always been given this. When you see, some people say they're in recovery, and it's very sad, usually a sad sack affair. Like, I'm in recovery, and I'm always going to be in this. I'm always there. And, hey, Paul, how you doing? We're all in recovery. But you got to understand, definition of recovery means to get something back.
Mm.
That's what recovery is.
Mm-hmm.
You, the person, the thing that stole these things from you, you are getting them back.
You get freedom
every day.
You get freedom, choice, and sanity back.
You see what I mean? You getting it back. Wait, and every day you're becoming the more and more the real you.
Mm. You know, folks, I'm not that big on trends. I've had this shirt since way before podcasts existed, and it smells like it, kind of. It's got notes of regret, mothballs, and a hint of mystery meat from the first season of The Office. But I am big on clothes that feel amazing and don't disintegrate after one wash. That is why I'm so glad I found Quince. Their organic cotton silk polos. I tell you, I wore one into the Soul Boom studio and my producer asked me if I had gotten my life together. For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/soulboom for 365-day returns, plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/soulboom to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/soulboom.
All that other stuff is a fake you.
Yeah.
It's not real. And that's why I'm like, this is good news. This is not, oh, woe is me.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going out finding my new shit every day.
Mm.
I'm like, what was stolen? I'm like, I got this today. Oh my God, I found it. Give me my stuff back.
Yeah.
And, and I'm finding stuff I didn't even know I lost.
Mm. Mm.
That's what's so great about, I think recovery is just the best term of all time. Imagine.
Yeah.
If you had your whole life stolen, imagine if people who've lost all these things and you found it sitting there, pristine, never messed with it, you found it back again. That's the best news ever. Every day I feel like a celebration. And this is where the gratitude comes from. Because now I just like, oh, thank you. Because I could have easily been on that dark path. I don't think I would have been here. I'll be honest with you. I just don't. I think something would have taken me out.
It would have taken you down.
Somehow,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could say this, I probably would not be successful. Because, I mean, how many guys we know in the biz that they were hot and all of a sudden, they were like, where are they? What happened? Family's gone. Then they supplant this with some other kind of addiction and it's over. But I know I have more than I've ever had. But again, I have still yet to discover all that I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff I don't even know that I'm going every day. It's a new thing, man. And it's like, this is good news. That's why Terry Crews can smile. I'm not looking at it like, oh, look at poor me. I'm like, yo. And now my job is to tell people, you can do that too.
Yeah.
You can have it, man. Listen, for every tear, it comes with new smiles. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, my wife and I have been married 36 years now. That was at year 20. We went through that.
Whoa.
But our marriage is better than it's ever been.
That's beautiful.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's no secrets.
Yeah. Now, you wrote this book, Tough.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, I loved about the book is redefining what it is to be tough. And this also has to do with recovery. And it helped me so much, a 12-step program of recovery. And this idea that in surrender, you gain strength. So there's something about that first step of like, I'm powerless over drugs, alcohol, pornography, whatever it is. My life has become unmanageable. You're throwing up the white flag. You're just like, I give up. And in the act of doing that, you find, like you have proven here, real strength and real integrity in surrendering and giving up. But out there, surrendering and giving up is weakness.
It's weak.
So there's this incredible dichotomy in it of like, you meet people in the room, the 12-step rooms, and they've been through hell, and overcome so much and have so much strength and resilience and fortitude, wisdom and integrity from saying, I'm powerless and also I'm kind of a fuck up and here's my character defects. And so what is it about finding toughness in softness?
That vulnerability, has just been confused with weakness, but by people who are trying to manipulate you, usually.
Mm.
You know, it's weird because your friends don't mind you being vulnerable. Think about it.
Mm.
People who love you and are your friends, they're like, oh man, that was great.
Mm.
When you get vulnerable in front of them,
Yeah, sure.
that's my man.
Yeah.
That's my man. Only people that hate you hate your vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
You understand? Or jealous.
You catch a lot of shit for your vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
Online, on
There
social,
was
and
a time, oh my God, when I came forward about Adam Bennett molesting me, my agent.
Yeah.
You got to understand. Everybody's like, that's big ass Terry Crews. He could have just knocked him out with one swing. And what is he talking about? What is he in the MeToo movement for? This is some bullshit. You know how many times I heard that from big people? Like, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to join these women? What are you doing? And I was like, dude, but so you understand, I'd already been through all this stuff.
Mm.
And I was like, no. No. I was like, because William Morris told me, hey man, he's a partner. You got to accept it. I said, no. And remember how I went public about my own pornography? I said, hey, guess what? All these women that are you saying deserved it and that's their way into Hollywood and they probably asked for it and the whole thing, it happened to me too.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain this?
Mm-hmm.
And what people didn't understand is that if you were telling, you don't get any money. That's you only get paid for silence.
Yeah. It didn't benefit you one bit.
Non-disclosure is you sign that, that's when you get the check for not saying. But once the women came out, you ain't getting any money. I wasn't getting anything. It was like, yo, you can't treat people like this. Just the agent at my agency who grabs me in front of my wife and my family, in front of, and I'm in a whole room full of white people. And I wanted to knock him in his, I was going to put my fist through his head. But everything in me was like, you are better than this. You don't have to do this. You have choices now. Whereas before, it's just, I'm a man, I got to react, I got to beat you up. But my vulnerability is my strength now. So I don't have to beat anybody up. Nope. In fact, we're just going to go home. And I confronted and talked to everybody and the whole thing. And they all told me that we're taking this very seriously. And nothing happened. And I went almost a year. And I was like, anything going to happen? And finally, when I came out, you got to understand, when I did the tweets about it, I didn't even mention his name. The agency calls me like hours after, a couple hours after the tweets went out, when I tweeted about this stuff. And it took over. It was another one of those, whoa, Terry Crews does it. And Hollywood was like, what are we going to do with this guy? Like, I would walk in a room and half the room would run. And the other room, half of the room would run to me. And people were like, dude, men, women, that happened to me, man. That's me. This happened to me. And I was like, damn it. See, this is the game that if we don't start talking for real, why are we lying? Why? Let's talk about it. And finally, because they would not admit their guilt, I had to go public.
Yeah.
And they exposed the guy because they felt they were going to get ahead of it and the whole thing. I never said his name, but they went in, did all this stuff. And I said, dude, what are you going to do about the predator you got in your hallways, man? I said, dude, you can't treat the clients like this. I've given you millions of dollars. I can't go to Bonds and get fondled by the guy bagging my groceries. He gets fired. They were like, it's different. So how is that different? And you know, he said, well, shoot your best shot, buddy. He looked at me and told me that. I said, holy shit.
Whoa.
I said, okay, you the agency, right? You work for me, right? No. He literally like, no, I leverage you. Goodbye. Huh? What? Okay. Got it. Got it. And I said, I will spend $1 million to win $1. He let me know. He was like, let's war. Let's go. So, okay. And I went on a whole time. I went on every talk show and everywhere. I spent my own money. I got up to $500,000 of my own money. Now, how many young girls coming into Hollywood, get molested, have that kind of money to battle this kind of stuff? They know they don't. But I said, you know what? And let me tell you who really, really fueled me. It's my wife. My wife said, Terry, ain't a woman in your life ain't been through that shit. Let me tell you what you need to do. And I was like, she was like, I remember getting messed with when I was a kid and everything. And she said, Terry, let's fight this together. I said, I'm with you. I said, you down with it? She said, I'm down.
That's amazing.
100%.
Yeah.
Because
did you file a lawsuit or a civil suit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to get the DA, and they were like, no, we're not going to touch it. So I filed a civil suit, got to $500,000. But then all of a sudden, all these people came out of the woodwork. Because you don't rob the biggest bank in the world on the first try. Okay, so he was like, I never know. This is not me. And all these people came and joined my case. All of a sudden, they were like, we're going to let him go, and we're going to give you your money back. I was like, thank you. Thank you. Because you can't molest the clients and continue to work. It just doesn't work.
God, good for you. God damn.
But yeah.
That's a story.
It was crazy. It was crazy. You understand, the world was like, what? I thought I was never going to work again.
Yeah.
And I was doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine at the time. Dude, when the tweets went out, I was on set, and people were like, look at their phones, like, yeah. And it was like,
camera,
and that's back when Twitter was really about it, trending, and you know, I mean, it was hot. It was like, what? And people were like, and I was like, okay, let's finish the scene. And I was like, uh-oh. And I came home. I said, I don't think we're gonna be working anymore. I fully expected to get fired, just like the Old Spice stuff. And they were like, no. And all the people on the set, Sandberg, to the producers, Dan Gore, Mike Shore, they were like, dude, we're with you, man.
That's
that
great.
felt so good, dude.
Yeah.
My castmates were like, man, somebody has to stand up.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, and that was the thing. And I remember, man, your friends don't mind you being vulnerable. Go back to, but it was
you caught a lot of
rap stars. I called out, I remember, Russell Simmons was like, hey, man, get an agent a pass. I was like, what the hell? Nobody gets a pass, man. What are you talking about? It's because you hanging with all these guys anyway. And lo and behold, he's over there. He can't even come back in the country or he'll get arrested.
Yeah.
So these guys, abusers protect abusers, man. They're not my friends. They're not my buddies.
So you're redefining what it is to be tough through vulnerability.
You got to be powerless. And it makes you stronger. Hey, man, the universe gives you the power, man, when you let go. It's not holding on. You know what I mean? When you get to the end of the workout is when you start getting strong. That's it. When you're done and can't breathe, that's it. Now, okay, we got to give him more strength. We got to build his wind.
Yeah.
We got to make his muscles a little bigger. But if you only just lift light weights, you got to go, I'm done.
That's me. I'm exhausted.
But hey, you know what I mean? But imagine a tennis serve. If you're always lightly tennis, you got to go, rah!
Yeah.
You know?
Totally, yeah.
Some days you got to do it.
So the religious trauma that you suffered in the Pentecostal church, how limiting that was, how stifling that was, how shaming that was. Part of being tough now is rediscovering your spirituality, your connection with Jesus, with the church. What does that look like now versus then?
I love God. I love the Bible. I love the lessons. I love Jesus, what he stood for. But I also understood that it's man that messes that stuff up. And it's the additions. It's adding.
Sure.
To me, when you talk about God, it's about freedom. But when you don't feel free, they're adding something. You know what I mean? Like, it's really about who being the best you can be. But with them, it's always about, well, but you're still not there. Like what I want to say is a lot of times you have to acknowledge your powerlessness. But if someone else tells you you ain't shit, that's not the way to go. You understand what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
It's when I say self-discipline, it has to be self. But what the church did, they were the ones that would discipline you. And that never works. Never. If I was to tell you you can't leave this room, you would be, the first thing you want to do is get out of this room. And you didn't want to do that before I said it. There's a big difference between spirituality and religion.
Sure.
And religion creates masks that people wear so long they become it. They don't even know another way. And cults take away choices. That's what they do. They literally, if there is a place where you feel like I have no choice, watch out. Because there's always a choice. Always. You can put a gun to my head and the choice is live or die. But it's still my choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people don't want to go that far. Well, no, I had to. No. And cults and people like that and very, very structured, really religious mindsets keep people trapped and say you don't have any other way. And you don't have choices. We'll make these for you. So anything is funny because I can go in churches now and I feel that, whoa, nope. And immediately I'm gone. But I can go in other places and I go, oh, I feel free. I can hear what you're saying. It's all about what I do for myself. And all of a sudden, I'm in. So I've learned not to, but you have to.
So do you go to church?
I do. I do.
You just found a church that doesn't limit you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I still, it's funny. My wife is a pastor.
Whoa.
My wife has a church.
Whoa.
She just started one. It's called LA Life Church, and she just gets on and she does it online. It's like it's YouTube, and she does a thing called Sonic Sunday where she sings, and people come in and play music, and then she gives like a 20-minute just talk about what she's been through, and that's it. That's it. Hey, church ain't more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who told you it had to be?
Sure.
Nobody. Like the rule is like, hey man, just go tell your story. That's it. That's church.
Yeah.
And I love her, and I love what she does, and I love what it's about because we've been through it all, and I know what this woman's been through.
Do you pray?
Yes, all the time. One thing is so amazing. They asked Mother Teresa, like, what is prayer about? And she said, she said, so how do you pray? And she said, I just listen. I listen to God. And he said, well, what does he tell you? She said, he's listening to.
Oh,
ooh,
that's nice.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Because you don't have to talk to pray. You don't have to, that's for everybody else, but me and God, I'm listening, he's listening. We're communicating. That's prayer. I'm with you, man. And he's like, hey, but son, this is, it's like a pipeline that just keeps going.
Yeah.
People have this image of, okay, we're praying now. And I just feel like there are times I'm like, those moments of revelation, those moments of insight, that's prayer, man. It's prayer.
Right.
You know what I mean? When she said that, she said, I just listen. Well, what did he say? He's listening too.
It's funny. There's a quote from my faith tradition, the Baha'i faith, that says, strive day by day that your actions may be beautiful prayers. So that's another way to think about it.
So good.
The little actions you do, the holding the door for someone, the smile to someone, the laugh, the pat on the back, the lifting someone up in some way. Think about a day with 100 little prayers scattered throughout it.
Isn't that great? Frederick Douglass, who was a slave and really was one of the leaders in the American Civil Rights Movement and anti-slavery movement. He said, I prayed every day. He said, but my answers were not, he said, my prayers were not answered till I prayed with my feet.
Mm.
And he escaped.
Mm.
And that's prayer too.
Yeah.
Like you said, those little actions.
Yeah.
He said, I prayed with my feet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's a lot more to prayer than I think what we think it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we talk a lot on this show about kind of redefining God. And obviously when God is not an old white man with a beard, I call in my book Sky Daddy, that, you know, God is beauty, music, life, light, connection, just something larger we can be enthralled to. That's not like a being with superpowers, and how we have to shift our definition of God. But this is beautiful too, shifting our definition of what prayer is.
Remember I told you how I didn't cry?
Mm.
One of the biggest things that ever happened to me, and when you said it's in certain things, and all of a sudden you just feel the presence of God. I was watching the movie Lean on Me.
Okay.
With Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
I was all alone. I was in the house, and I'm like, I've seen this movie probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
This is when I was in my recovery. Right after that, and dude, I couldn't stop crying.
Mm.
Wait, Morgan Freeman. When Morgan Freeman he called an assembly. And all the kids and this was when the school was just really wrecked, and there was gang members and drug dealers and people, and he called them all in an assembly, and then he called all these miscreants to the stage. And he said, look at these men and women up here. You will never be bothered by them again. He said, you have all been expurgated. And he kicked them all out of school. And all the students were sitting there, the ones that were good, the ones that wanted to learn. See, I'm remembering this like now.
Mm.
And the gang members yelled and fought, and he had security come and put them all out. And then Morgan stood on that stage alone, and he looked at them kids. He said, now you're gonna learn.
Mm.
And I said, that's what I needed when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Mm.
To have someone protect me like this. Someone look after me. Someone watch me. I wanted to do this, but I had to. I was being two people. I had to code switch and act like
Yeah.
But dude, I said I want that. That's God to me now.
Mm.
That pornography, that demon of those monsters. He's like, now they've all been expurgated.
Mm.
Rainn, man, it was so deep. It was so deep, and I couldn't stop crying.
Mm.
And I was like, that's what I got. That movie was powerful, man. It was just like, and he was in trouble, and he was doing his thing, and he's like, you smoke crack, don't you? You know? And everybody remembers these moments.
Yeah.
But this was based on a real person.
Yeah.
That's what I love. It's a real person.
Yeah.
Who decided he was going to take everybody on.
Yeah.
For the sake of these kids that wanted
to learn
an education, that wanted to be better, that wanted to work on themselves. You understand what I'm saying? Not work on their whole community and work on everybody. The kids just wanted to be better.
Mm-hmm.
But you got the environment that constantly is attacking them for wanting to improve themselves. What kind of world is that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm getting.
No, I love it.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So, yeah.
Oh man, I was not prepared to get this emotional today, but
I had a similar experience. It's so funny. I'd forgotten this, but I was sick and I was working in Chicago a few years back, and I turn on like the TV, which I never do, like stations, channels that have shows, not streaming. And Fiddler on the Roof was on. And I think I had a fever. And I just cried the whole movie through. I hadn't seen it since I was like 12 years old. I was like, and I called my wife. It's like, it's all about love. It's all about love. Life is all about love. These people, they're trying to find meaning and fall in love. And they're just trying to live their lives, but they're being kicked out of their homes. And they're, and I was weep. I had tears pouring down my face.
That's God, man.
That is God.
Dude,
so God
can
show itself, himself, they self, its beauty through art and film too. Are you still an artist?
Yes.
How do you create? What do you create?
I create furniture.
Oh, come on. Now.
Yeah.
You got a furniture line?
I do.
Okay.
My line
That's
is
amazing.
Bernhardt Design. I'm actually headed to Italy next week.
What?
I am. I'm going to Salone del Mobile in Milan to scout out new ideas, to scout out man, I love this world. I'm doing it for 8 years with my collection is at Bernhardt Design. Been there for 8 years.
Yeah.
Sofas, couches, chairs, and different end tables. And I love interiors. And I learned to, because it's like, I love drawing people, but I was like, why don't I just work on what they sit on and what they use?
Yeah.
And the tables. And I was like, oh, these shapes are beautiful. And about 7, 8 years ago, I got the chance to do that and showed my sketches to the creative director at Bernhardt. And he was like, these are amazing. Let's make it. I went, are you kidding me? And I've been doing that for almost 7, 8 years.
That's amazing.
Isn't it great? And it's an outlet. It's like my own $1 million movie. Like every time they produce a new, and it sells all over the world, which blows my mind.
Whoa.
Like you're like,
people are sitting in your furniture and
they don't even know it. And I have wallpaper.
Yeah. You got wallpaper?
I have wallpaper. I did a wallpaper line with Aztec. And it won an award.
Best wallpaper award?
Yeah, it did. It was wallpaper of the year.
The Oscars of wallpaper?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
These are the things that are my Oscars. Yeah. I'm like, wow. It won an Interior Design magazine ranked it as one of the top wallpapers of the year.
Yeah, amazing.
And it's an Aztec. You can type it in. Just
I would get a wallpaper with your face on it over and over again.
It's funny because what I did was draw the people who inspired me and put it up, my version of them. Aretha Franklin, Walt Disney, Pele, Muhammad Ali, and it's called Iconographic, is the name of the wallpaper. Wow. So it's all these images of all these people that became who I was, because we all as artists, you just take a little bit. I take a little from this guy, a little bit from that, a little bit from Picasso, a little bit from Michael Jackson, a little bit from, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you create a new thing. Yeah. This is what creativity is.
What do I have to do to get on your fucking wallpaper?
No, that'll be Iconographic too. I gotta have Rainn Wilson on Iconographic too.
You got so much going on. You're producing this racing show in New York. What are you doing in Brazil now?
Yeah, I have a huge campaign. Brazil is probably one of my biggest fan bases of all time. You have to understand it. Billions of people there, and they love me, and I love them. And it's
that's nuts. That's great.
It's because Everybody Hates Chris is still the #1 sitcom in Brazil.
Oh, no way.
Because you have to understand, it's a 65% Afro-Brazilian population, but the people on TV are mainly white.
Right.
And they saw Everybody Hates Chris, and it reflected them. Because here you have a working class family trying to survive, do their thing. They call me Pai de Chris, which means father of Chris. And I have a huge campaigns going on there.
That's amazing.
Starting a supplement company there. And I love Brazil. You have to understand, man.
Oh, I've never been. Brazil has huge Office fans too.
Yo,
I don't know.
Yes, they want it all, and they're going to get it. Like their cons, like all the Comic-Cons, they're gigantic. Like,
whoa, I think I'm going to one in Argentina. I think in December, a Comic-Con down there. So I've been to Colombia, but I haven't been to the rest of South America. Amazing.
Brazil is just.
What about as an actor? Anything else going on?
I'm doing a movie. It's all about this team in Alaska. It's a football movie that Maria Menounos put together.
Yeah.
I'm playing a coach in that movie. And then me and Zach King are working on a project together. You know, Zach has been this internet phenomenon.
Yeah.
But we have this beautiful fantasy movie called The Agency of Things Unseen that we're doing right now, that we're developing. And then I got a bunch of independent stuff that I'm doing. I get offers, but it's got to be right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to. I realize there's a lot of things that I just don't have to do. And one thing it's all about for me is, what is a movie saying? What is it about?
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm still waiting for White Chicks too. I can't wait for that.
Now, White Chicks went through a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's super popular, and then it was like very like un-PC.
Oh yeah.
And now it's coming back around.
Oh,
And people are like,
back.
oh, wait a minute. It was actually decades ahead of its time and its cultural criticism.
Yes.
Tell us about White Chicks.
Well, that's the thing. The New York Times put out a thing on the 20th anniversary of White Chicks, which was crazy because it was 2004 all the way to 2024. And they were like, we got it wrong. This is the movie of the last 20 years. Like, White Chicks got it right.
Yeah.
Where we were panned, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But remember, it was pre-Kardashian, pre-everything. All this, reality TV and what it is now, and black and white relations and how it worked. We could address these things freely.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing. And now you have to understand too, every year, a young man or woman turns 12 or 13 and they sit and they watch White Chicks. And they go, oh, like the bomb go, poof, you know, it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
And they become fans for life.
Yeah.
So, and that's been happening for 20 years. You have to think, my 21-year-old daughter was 1 year old. She was one on the set. She went to college and they were on the roof last summer watching White Chicks.
Oh, damn.
She's like, oh my God. I come out of the thing in a Speedo and my daughter's like, and they're like, that's your dad, right? And she's like, no. But if you don't embarrass your kids, you're not doing it right. You know what I mean?
And if folks want to see you and me in a movie together, they can watch Badass by Mario Van Peebles. That was 22 years ago. Before The Office, before Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, before White Chicks.
I remember meeting you. I remember hanging with you in the parking lot in downtown LA when we were shooting that movie.
Remember that?
You know, such a great movie about an seminal chapter in Black American history. Melvin Van Peebles shooting Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, which we were saying not only the first blaxploitation film, wasn't quite a blaxploitation film, but ushered forward blaxploitation, but one of the first like independent films that showed that you could make money as an independent film. And it's about the making of that film. That was such a blast. I'm really proud of that movie. I don't know that many people get to see it, but check out Badass.
You got to check it out. Mario Van Peebles directed and starred as his father.
Yeah, played his father.
Which was unreal. Nia Long, David Allen Greer.
It was a great cast.
Great cast, dude. And I was brand new. I had an afro in it. I know. It was great.
Yeah. Terry, how would you define the word soul?
Soul is a feeling, okay? Soul is that feeling when you are just connecting on every level with whatever you're interacting with. That's how I feel. That's just soul. Like, you can eat something that has soul. You can hear something that has soul. You can be with somebody who has soul, but you're just connected. That's my definition.
Beautiful. Terry, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your heart and your wisdom. And this has been a beautiful conversation. I've learned so much. Thank you. God bless you.
Hey, Rainn, and I got to tell you, I'm just so proud of you, man. I mean, I've been following you ever since we worked on that film. And I was like, wow, look at this man.
Yeah.
Look at you. I'm proud and honored, to know you and to see just what a great person you are. And you're getting better every day. And what can I say, man? We did our Soul Pancake years ago.
Yeah, that's right. You were part of this big Soul Pancake event we put on. And you're always willing to do that. You're always willing, like, hey, Terry Crews, will you come down to this event when we were kids and mental health and trying to make the world a better place? Like, I'm there.
I got you.
I'm there.
That's the thing, man. To me, that's the ministry. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta.
It's your actions.
Giving is how you get.
Your actions are beautiful prayers.
Oh man. I love you, man.
Thanks. Love you too.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
All righty.
The Soul Boom Podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your stupid podcasts.